Restoring men in history. Fantastic one today. Second Amendment, so important to you men for protecting your families and protecting against tyranny. Let's take a look at Kamala Harris's clips.
We want to ban assault weapons.
We must repeal the liability shield that protects gun manufacturers. And we must renew the assault weapons ban.
Now let's read the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now that's very clear. Shall not be infringed. Now, who is that restraining? It's restraining the federal government from interfering in your individual right to bear arms. George Mason said at the debates, to disarm the people, that was the best and most effectual way to enslave them. Pretty strong words, enslave them. Disarm the people and you enslave them. Your Second Amendment protects you and your family. If you like this message, we'd like it if you subscribe. We'd appreciate that. Like and comment. Thank you. So he sees bearing arms as protection against what? Tyrants and tyranny. So important to you men. Now, one of the key words that many like to bring up that want to take your arms and want more control and power over you is this word militia. What did George Mason say? Remember, he was a great Virginian, had a hand in writing the Declaration of Rights, which in the state Virginia Constitution, which preceded this one, the federal Constitution. The word militia, what does it mean? Here's George Mason again at the convention. I asked, sir, what is the militia? And here's the key. It is the whole people, except for whom and for few public officials. So we've inverted, right? What's he say? It is the whole people, except for few public officials. See how it's funny how we've inverted that. Remember, George Mason had read the English Bill of Rights, had studied English history. And here's a great key to understanding the U.S. federal Constitution. Is it a collective or individual right? Now, if you go back and you read the Bill of Rights, what are all those? First Amendment, you've got an individual right in there. Second Amendment, individual right. Third, fourth, 5 through 8, all individual rights, right? So it's an individual, not a collective right. And he had written it already in the Virginia Declaration of Rights to protect against what? The Virginia State Constitution. So he was restraining clearly the federal government. So the Bill of Rights restrains the federal government from impeding on your rights. Joyce Malcolm Lee wrote a fantastic book that I read on the origins of all this, going back into Anglo-America. So I pulled a little bit of an article. During most of England's history, maintenance of an armed citizenry was neither merely permissive nor cosmetic, but essential. Until late in the 17th century, England had no standing army, and until the 19th century, no regular police force. The maintenance of order was everyone's business. You get that? Everyone's business. And it is today. And an armed and active citizenry was written into the system. Page 291. All able-bodied men between the ages of 16 and 60 were liable to be summoned on the sheriff's posse. Okay? For large-scale emergencies such as invasion or insurrection, a civilian militia was intermittently mustered for military duty. While all able-bodied males were liable for this service, the practice during the late 16th and 17th centuries had been to select a group of men within each county to be intensively trained. So it was still the whole people, all able-bodied males, right? And think the life expectancy was very low then. In 1776, according to some of the studies I've read, it was only around about 35. So it's the whole people. And that's the key that we're getting at today. The rank and file were usually men of modest means. So it wasn't a set of elites. So just the regular people. There were, however, invariably led by prestigious members of their community and commanded by lords lieutenant, who were peers appointed by and responsible for the crown. The effectiveness of the militia varied with the need for their services, the interest of particular monarchs, and even with the enthusiasm of individual masters and captains. During some reigns, the trained bands were scarcely mustered from one year to the next. In others, they were drilled with regularity. In the 1630s, a major effort was made to re-equip these citizen soldiers and have them instructed in the latest European. The militia and the posse were summoned only occasionally. Okay. The old common law custom persisted that when a crime occurred, and this is interesting, Citizens were to raise a hue and cry to alert their neighbors and were expected to pursue the criminals from town to town, from county to county. Isn't that interesting? Self-reliance and protecting themselves. And look at the change today. Villagers who preferred not to get involved were subject to fine and imprisonment. See how far away we've fallen. Sir George Tucker wrote, "The right of self-defense is the first law of nature. In most governments, it has been the study of rulers to confine this right within the narrowest possible limits. And when the right of the people to keep and bear arms is under any color or pretext whatsoever prohibited, liberty, if not already annihilated, is on the brink of destruction." Sir George Tucker, judge of the Virginia Supreme Court and U.S. District Court. You got to love those Virginians, Blackstone commentaries. The Virginians were so magnificent. So what's he saying there? It's been the study of rulers to confine this right within the narrowest possible limits. What are they doing today? What is Kamala trying to do? Chuck Schumer. And you can create a host of people. It's whether, by the way, it's constitutional or not, whether you're a Republican or Democrat. Follow the Constitution. Uphold. You take an oath. The right of the people to keep and bear arms is, under any color or pretext whatsoever, prohibited. Liberty, if not already annihilated, pretty strong, is on the brink of destruction. So we must have that for freedom. Richard Henry Lee, another great Virginian, magnificent guy, to preserve liberty, it is essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms. There you go, the whole body of people. They're making it clear. He was anti-federalist. He was involved in the ratification debates. He was involved. And be taught alike, especially when young, how to use them. Federal farmer to the Republic. Patrick Henry, the great Patrick Henry. We love Patrick Henry. The great object is that every man be armed. Is this clear? Everyone who is able might have a gun. Eliot debates. Thomas Jefferson, no free man shall ever be debarred from the use of arms. Proposal for the Virginia Constitution. Jefferson Papers. Tench Cock, who are the militia? Are they not ourselves? It is feared then that we shall turn our arms, each man against his own bosom. Congress have no power to disarm the militia, and they don't today. Their swords and every other terrible implement of the soldier are the birthright of an American. What does he say here? I also like to say, well, it was meant for muskets. Nope. Their swords and every other terrible implement of the soldier, Kurt, are the birthright of an American. The unlimited power of the sword is not in the hands of either the federal or state governments, but where I trust in God, it will ever remain in the hands of the people. Tench Cox. So now you know what the Second Amendment is for. You know what militia means. You know it's an individual right. You know the militia is the whole of the people. You know it's an individual right for you. Bolden, writing from the 10th Amendment Center, wrote this: the founders cited 4 primary reasons. It helps promote the individual natural right of self-defense. It guarantees the states a militia power of their own to balance the military power of the federal government. In other words, it prevents the need for large permanent standing armies. Now we could stop here and go into this. We won't, but remember, they didn't want large standing armies. It was adopted to support the people defending against foreign invasion. And lastly, defense against domestic tyrants. Domestic tyrants. So we do need and have a right to AR-15s, no matter what all those individuals are saying. Chuck Schumer, Pelosi, Kamala Harris, all of them. And you've got many Republicans who do this too, who don't follow the Constitution. All federal gun laws are unconstitutional. So anyone who writes one is going against the Constitution. Second Amendment restrains the federal government. If you want to do something, you have to go through the amendment process. Article 5, you cannot just have a judge do it, Congress do it, an executive, or the executive agencies do it. You can't just have the ATF do it. That's unconstitutional. Constitution protects you and your rights. It's very important that we protect it as well, lawfully and peacefully. You must be able to defend yourself against tyrants, organizations, and foreign countries, threats, criminals. You must be able to protect your home, your castle, your property. And you must be able to defend yourself against a tyrant or tyrannical government. Remember the context. They had already been around a parliament they thought was overburdening them. A king. They never wanted a king again. They never wanted a tyrant again. So they wrote this in. That's why it's in there. They had gone through that. They had a revolution. They put this in the Bill of Rights to make sure it never happened again. And what do they say? Remember, they looked at history. Totalitarians and people who seek power want to take your guns. For the same reasons, power and control over you, the people. They were meant to serve you and uphold the Constitution, not trample and break it, not break their oaths. Here's to freedom and the Constitution and you men. Restore the Constitution, restore men. Thank you. If you like our message, please like, comment, and subscribe.